Original recipes, true stories, timeless traditions. Welcome to Plymouth Gin. And welcome to the Barbican Plymouth, where England's oldest working gin distillery is situated. We love having people in the distillery, but if you can't come to us, here's us coming to you.
Hallå och välkomna allihopa till en supertrevlig ginkväll med oss på Allt om Whisky. Idag kommer vi prata en hel del med destillerichefen på Plymouth Gin. Men Tommy, du är väl en kille som gillar gin också?
Ja, men jag är exalterad. Jag är så glad över att ha Sean Harrisson på Plymouth Gin här. Så vi kommer gå igenom en ganska stor lansering i fasta sortimentet, Plymouth Gin, som lanserades 1 mars. Sen kommer vi gå igenom lite historia såklart, kommer ställa en massa frågor till Sean och sådär, så det kommer bli en magisk 40 minuter.
Ungefär.
Ska vi hälsa honom välkommen kanske, så han får
självklart
presentera sig.
Den viktigaste mannen ikväll.
So, Sean, we have you here. Hello.
Hi, hello. Hello.
Nice to meet you. How's everything?
It's good. Yeah, it's very good. You know, it's April, spring is coming. The weather's finally cheering up. So generally speaking, yeah, all good.
Nice. It's almost the same here.
Yeah, all good because we've actually poured ourselves a glass of gin, so we're super happy and super excited.
And the sun is shining, so everything is
always helps. Yeah.
So we're gonna have a nice 40 minutes to 50 minutes here, and please, all the viewers that follow us live, you can always ask questions whenever you like, and we are going to try to track all the questions for you. So please introduce yourself. I'm so excited to have you.
Okay, my name is Sean Harrisson. I'm the master distiller for Plymouth Gin, and I started with Plymouth Gin in 1994. So it's been getting almost 27 years, and it's been a fun ride the last 27 years. Gin has gone from, well, I suppose a better way of saying it is when I started at Plymouth, there was 12 gin distilleries making 20 different brands of gin. So the world is very much a different place today.
Have you always worked with gin, or how did you end up in the gin industry?
Yeah, I consider myself really lucky because I left the Royal Navy in June 1994. So, and in my last 9 months within the Navy, which was based in Plymouth, I met Rachel, who I've been married to for, I should remember this, 26 years. So she gave me a reason to stay in Plymouth, but I needed a job. So way before the internet was available, so every week, every Thursday, the paper would come out and it have a job section in it. And one Thursday, the assistant manager's job was advertised in the paper. So I sent in my CV, and here I am 27 years later.
Oh, wow.
So it's it's sort of right place, right time. To be perfectly honest, not knowing what I was going into, but actually discovering that I had a passion for it, and it surprised me. You know, within the first couple of years, it was a real sort of eye opener to an industry I really didn't know existed.
Wow, that's a cool story.
It's not the normal way I would say that people get into it, but. But it was definitely, my timing, just not from just getting the job, but from the gin craze, if you like, that's happened over the last 25 years. So having seen it all the way through from nothing in sort of 94, 95 to where we are now has been, you know, as a gin enthusiast and a gin drinker, it's just brilliant.
Is UK the biggest market for you, or?
Yes, but not by much. The UK, USA are our two biggest markets.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's just it's where historically, obviously, at home, you know, you'd expect our home country to be one of our bigger markets. Plus the fact of the history of gin in the UK is very much linked, and the US because of the cocktail scene.
Yeah,
that's right.
So gin's been quite a big peak when the prohibition was around, and it's just gone straightforward from there, I think. Or
yeah, it is all based on cocktails. If you think basically what gin is about, it's about mixed drinks, and gin is the most user-friendly spirit when it comes to making cocktails, which is why if you look at all of the great cocktails in the world, the majority of them are gin based. And that's because of its mixability and the way that it picks up flavors and the way that it combines with flavors and the way that you can send it in different directions, you know. And if you go back in Plymouth's history, we were there at the very beginning of cocktails. So, you know, and because our oldest drink really with a gin-based drink is the pink gin, which you can trace all the way back to 1830. And then when you come forward a little bit more, you get into the 1860s with the gimlet, which is gin and lime, which again is very sort of Plymouth orientated. And then you jump forward another 30, 40 years, you end up into the martini. And this is pretty much proven that Plymouth is the original dry martini gin. And that's pretty cool to be making a gin now. It's not only been around for the last 100 years, but it's been around for the last over 200 years and has got the pedigree and the sort of usability that it has within the mixed drinks side.
That's I read that somewhere as well, and you know, I'm a Plymouth fan. I've been for many years, so of course I've seen that, and the liquid is just perfect just for dry martinis. For all stiff cocktails is good. So it's going to be a very interesting hour here for us to discuss it. But it's nice to hear that other markets is growing as well. Some quick numbers about the Swedish market, just because why I wanted to show you this is because gin is the fastest growing spirits category at Systembolaget at the moment. Or 2020 numbers, so that's kind of cool. They were the whole category was up over 40%, as you can see there. Cool, and we are only 10 million people living here, and we still drink 3.5 million bottles of gin.
So we're working on it.
Please,
well done.
Please be responsible out there. So it's kind of nice, and now with we can see a new trend with the Swedes tend to actually pay a little bit more per bottle. So the one, I think the 4 fastest growing gin brands is actually around the same price point as Plymouth gin. And Plymouth actually was launched now in 1st of March. This you already know.
But for the viewers that might not know, it's brand new at the Monopoly and has quite a lot of stores, Systembolaget stores as well. 226
stores in the fixed assortment. That's very good. And the retail price is 299 in Sweden, which is around 30 euros. So that's it's amazing. It's amazing to have it on shelf because it's over 300 gins in the ordering assortment and between 19 and 21 gins in the fixed assortment. And one of those gins will be Plymouth, or is Plymouth, because it's already launched in March. So that's great. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, I was congratulating myself. So that's great. That's great. But you know, for the gin fans, we are into some history. Plymouth, you were in the Navy. Is it still up and running now, or is the Navy based in Plymouth still, or?
Yeah, the Navy is and has been for 400 years, and it's actually. Plymouth has always had quite a close tie-in with the Royal Navy, because if you go back to its original start date of 1793, the Royal Navy was growing, and at the time it wasn't great to take water to sea because it's spoiled in barrels. So the way that they got around it is they found a preservative, and that preservative ended up being alcohol. So they ended up taking both gin and rum to sea, and beer. as well. So to try and make sure that they didn't have any disease on board ships. And because of where Plymouth's based, it was in the right place to sort of piggyback on the back of the growing of the Royal Navy. And then because of the way that the Royal Navy went around the world, you know, Plymouth got distribution on the back of that. And as distribution and sales and marketing became more refined over the next 100 years, Plymouth Gin was always in the right place. But it is because, again, if you think about it, if you go back that 200 years, no lorries, no roads that we know about. So you needed to be in a port. And that's exactly where the distillery is. It's 75 meters away from the sea. So again, it could bring its ingredients or its botanicals into the distillery by sea, and then it could export everything that it needs to do by sea. So
it's sort of a beautiful place to visit also. I was there.
Gosh, yeah, it is. It's
I mean it's really close to the harbor and everything. So it's I cannot imagine of course they choose the spot. I mean, of course, for all of the good reasons. But can you tell us a bit more about the history of the distillery? The last years.
So the oldest part of the building is 500 years old, and it was actually built by a merchant. And the reason that's important is that the richer the merchants were, what they put on the back of their houses was effectively a brewery or a maltster. And that really is the key to why Plymouth Gin is at the distillery. Because over the years, the building went from being a house to what they call a Marshalsea, which is a debtor's prison, to the town meeting house. And then in the sort of latter parts of the 1700s, it became a distillery. And it all goes back to the fact that there was this maltster or this beer house on the back of this grand house. So that what that meant is they had somewhere where they could get the basic ingredients for distilling into alcohol or into a spirit, basically. And that was the sort of, that's the reason why Thomas Coates took over the building and just transformed the site over probably about 150 years. It was quite small, obviously, in the beginning, and then slowly but surely expanded and got bigger and bigger to the distillery that we know about today. But the youngest bit of the building is a mere 80 years old. So we go from 500 years to 80 years old and all sorts of ages in between, excuse me. And the still that we use is over 100 years old. The recipe we use is over 200 years old. So there's lots of sort of things that we've been doing time and time again. And that's really what gin is all about, is taking our recipe, which is over 200 years old, and continuing to make it in the same way that we've always done. And that's been the key to the success of Plymouth Gin, is the actual recipe of the gin itself and our ability to continue to make it.
Okay, yeah, that's and with the production, can you walk us through? You know, there is it's a lot of whiskey fans and gin fans that's listening in and watching us at the moment. But can you just walk us through from grain to bottling? Yeah.
So the first thing to really remember about gin is that we're not making something, we're flavoring something, because we don't make our own alcohol. Because if we were to take a whiskey or a grain that's destined for whiskey, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it's not good enough, because they only distill it up to 60%, 80% before they put it in a barrel. Well, we need it up to 96% because it takes away a lot of the impurities that are in the alcohol. And what we're looking to do is add our flavors onto it and not have too many flavors on the alcohol. Yes, we want a nice, soft, smooth grain-based alcohol, and that's what we use. And the grain that it comes from is wheat. And then what we do is we put that wheat grain into the still. We put on some water into the still because it is quite dangerous to try and distill at 96%. So we want to bring the strength down. And that's another lucky part about the location of Plymouth, is that just outside Plymouth, we have an area called Dartmoor. and Dartmoor is peat on granite, and that is exactly the same as Scotland. So that means we have really soft water, which has been fed into the town for over 500 years. Plymouth, actually, oddly enough, is the first city in the entire UK to have its own municipal water supply. And that was supplied straight from Dartmoor. We have what we call leats that were built by a guy called Francis Drake 500 odd years ago. So we've always had that clean water source coming down into the distillery. And then, of course, we've got our botanicals. And if you want to be called a gin, the predominant flavor taste has to be juniper. So, and there's a nice picture of the juniper being tipped into the still. And then we modify the flavors with the other 6 ingredients. So we use coriander seeds, we use lemon, we use sweet orange peel, we use angelica root, we use orris powder and cardamom pods. So those 7, when they're put into the still and distilled with the water and the alcohol, produce the flavor that is Plymouth gin. And the natural strength of the still is 82.5%. So that's our starting point. And then we reduce it down to a sensible drinking strength of either 57% ABV or 41.2%. So the key really when it comes to making gin is selecting the ingredients. And that is also the alcohol and water. We don't just buy the alcohol because it's available. We buy it because it's doing the right things for Plymouth gin. And then...
Yeah, sorry, Sean.
No, I was going to say, and then we do the same thing with all the ingredients. We go out there and we source the ingredients or the botanicals for the flavor profiles that we're looking for to make Plymouth gin.
And these are botanicals that you've always used along the way, historically also, I guess.
Yeah, they are. But what's changed is the science behind them. As we've understood plants better, as we've understand growing conditions better, as we've understood how to extract the essential oils better, and how we've learned to make alcohol better. So we have a much cleaner product today than they did 200 years ago when they started. So that's a technology advance. Although we're using a still that's over 100 years old, we're able to make sure that what we put into it is a lot better controlled.
Okay.
But there, for people and the viewers that are interested in gin and how it's made and produced, there are different spirits that you can use. Different grains, different because they're not that. It's not such a hard laws and regulations around that. Because, like you said, what you do is in the end result with the flavoring and
the stipulation it has to be an alcohol of agricultural origin, if you like, is the boring bit. So that just means it has to be grown. So then you're going, okay, it can be sugar-based alcohol, it can be barley-based alcohol, it can be obviously wheat-based alcohol, it can be anything as long as it is a grown plant, and then it's fermented and turned into ethanol.
So what would the main reason for you guys to use wheat, was it? Yes, wheat.
Yeah. Because
what characters? What does that give the gin for you?
It's what you can get locally. If you go back 200 years, no real trade in anything else. So you'd look what you were growing around that you could turn into alcohol, which is why if you look at the way the world works, grapes in Southern Europe, sugar in the Caribbean, and grains in Northern Europe. It's just, and historically in the UK, not when it comes to spirits, but we've used honey for mead and obviously hops and stuff like that in beer. So it's what the terroir of your particular country gives you. And that's why historically we've used wheat, because the UK is a big corn wheat producer.
Yeah.
Nice. We actually have a question here as well. I think you can read it on the screen as well, but it's the explosion of gin distilleries in many parts of the world in recent years. Do you think there will be a backlash soon?
I'm not sure there'll be a backlash as such, but I definitely think there'll be a slowing down. there is only, the market is only so big. And I suppose, again, if I put this in context in the UK, I said earlier that when I started, there was 12 gin distilleries. Okay, I'm not saying these are all gin distilleries now, but within England, there are 300 distilleries now, and in Scotland, there's over 200. Oh. So just in the UK alone, we've got 500 distilleries. Now, you in the UK could get a license and set up a distillery in your kitchen. So we're not talking big, we're talking micro distilleries. Right. And then if you go across to countries like America, again, when I started, there was about one distillery in America outside, making gin. Now the craft movement has become huge. So yes, there has definitely been a massive interest in making products. And that's got two things to it, really. One is it's helped educate people about spirits and about the good side of spirits, because sometimes they get a little bit of bad press. Yeah. And it's also made people more experimental. Now, what I mean by that is there's more flavors to try. So, and the same is true in the gin world. There are people out there trying some quite great flavors and some interesting flavors. Some work, some don't work, but at least we are pushing the envelope of working out where you can flavor it all. Will they all still be here in 10, 15 years? Probably not. That's the world of business. Yeah. And that's the way we're going to go. But no, it's a very interesting time particularly with gin, to drink gin, because there are so many available, and it gives you the ability to try flavors that you probably wouldn't have thought about trying. And innovation makes us all take a step back and have a play, and that just makes better products.
Does it help to have all the big tonic trend that is going around as well? A lot of new.
Yeah, I think it's a natural progression, because historically, gin and tonic is the drink, and it's both a godsend and a curse, because you're trying to break people away from just thinking that the only way to drink gin is with tonic. Now, it is one of the, it's a great drink, a gin and tonic, but only if it's made the way that you want it to be made. Yeah. And this is when you as a consumer have to invest a little bit of time and decisions, really, because you need to decide the gin that you like, and you need to decide on the tonic you like. So if you walk into a bar and say, please give me a gin and tonic, the bartender will give you a perfectly fine gin and tonic, but you might not like it. Yeah. Whereas if you walk into a bar and go, can I have a Plymouth and Fever Tree, or a Plymouth and Schweppes, or a Plymouth and an Imperial, or a Plymouth and whatever, then you're making an informed choice about your drink. And by doing that, you will get a better experience, and you will like it more, and you won't regret handing over your money.
No, that's right. But that's very true, because it tastes so different depending on whatever tonic you have in it. So of course that's a huge thing, and to put some effort into getting to know the tonics as well as the gin is maybe a good idea if you're interested in gin and spirits.
It's a strange thing to do, to have a tonic tasting, but it is quite because it is a very personal thing to you. Yeah. But it is definitely worth trying, is to have a fun afternoon just trying as many tonics as you can get hold of. And there will be as many opinions about which tonic is nice as there are about which whiskey people like or which gin people like. And that's what makes it interesting, is that discussion.
We need to have that.
I have
tonic evening.
I actually have a preference. If it's a gin that's very very boosted floral flavor, so I like the more sugary ones. But if it's well balanced, smooth, you want to taste the gin flavor in your gin and tonic, I go for the one with less sugar. Actually, that's my.
But Sean, how do you drink your gin when you?
Oh gosh, I'm very much a mood drinker. So it depends. So yes, at the moment I've got a martini, but a nice gin and tonic, or even a Negroni, or something like a gin and it with Italian vermouth, basically sweet vermouth as opposed to dry vermouth, is quite interesting. Gin and champagne, so something like a French 75 is really great. So and another basic one, just a twist on a gin and tonic, is Tom Collins. So that's effectively what they call a gin sour, which is 2 parts gin, 1 part sugar, half a part one part lemon, half a part sugar, with soda. So there are various ways, and I think that's the important thing is get away from being locked into the idea of a gin and tonic, and see what else you like. And I'll always keep going back to that. It's what you like. There is no right or wrong answer to this at all. And the way I like to drink it, and I think a martini is a very prime example. It's got 2 ingredients, effectively. 3 ingredients if you include a garnish. It's got, it's effectively got Plymouth, it's got a vermouth, and it's got a garnish. Yeah. But the garnish could be lemon, orange, olives. The vermouth could be one of about 20 different vermouths, and then you either have it wet or you have it dry. So you want more vermouth, you want less vermouth. There are a million different ways that you can do it, and you've got to find yours. And and that again goes back to it. Nobody should tell you. Guide, absolutely. It's, have you tried this? Have you tried this one? But it's back to this: make an informed choice. Mm-hmm. And you'll enjoy the drinking experience that much better. Particularly,
so be open and listen and try, but in the end, make up your own mind.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
We have a question here. I don't know if you see that too. It's Håkan. What is the reason for the alcohol strength on Plymouth? Yeah,
it's been a journey, actually. Plymouth has been all over the place throughout the years. So in the 80s, we were dropped down to 37.5%. And a lot of it is driven by, unfortunately, by money, by sales and what people think. Mm-hmm. So when we were bought from a company called Allied Domecq in 1996. And one of the gentlemen that was the buyers in was a gentleman by the name of Charles Rolls, which people might be familiar with, because once Charles finished with Plymouth, he created Fever Tree. So, and Charles was very new to the industry, and he sort of set me a little bit of a go away and have a play about what you think you would do with Plymouth Gin. So I'd already, because also Plymouth had been changed from grain to sugar-based alcohols in the 80s as well. So the first thing I did is I said, right, we need to go back to grain alcohols. We need to go to wheat-based alcohol because it helps with the flavor. Then straight away I said we need to go up to 40%. Away from 37.5. And then once we'd done that, I took a step back and I just started playing with different strengths. And I went back to Charles and said, for me personally, I think there's a sweet spot for Plymouth between 41 and 43%. It's a nice balance of the alcohol, so it's not too aggressive and it's easy to balance out, but the flavors work really, really well and they're held on the alcohol. And while I was doing that, he was looking back through the records, the old sales records that we have. And what he discovered is that 80 years to 100 odd years ago, that sort of time scale, we used to bottle Plymouth at an ABV of 41.2%. So all we did is relearn what they knew 100 years ago and what had been missed in the 70s and 80s. So that's why we're at 41.2. It's not a made up strength. It's just there because we felt that was a perfect sweet spot that Plymouth Gin should be at.
And you realized that it was something that they had actually done before.
Yeah, and that was the bizarre thing about it. That's the thing where you go, gosh, of course they knew what they were doing 100 years ago. Yeah. And we've forgotten about it. Yeah. So yeah, it was quite a salient lesson. We all come into an industry and we think we know everything. Well, maybe they do know something from times gone by, basically.
Yeah. We have another question actually.
See, I'm going to be quite controversial on Navy strength because we created a term. Okay?
Go for it.
Yeah. So, right. We relabeled our bottle in 1997, and we had a gap on the top because it's 57%. Used to be called 100 proof. So we had a gap on the top of this label. Now, by the sort of mid-90s, proof meant very little to people, because from I think it was 80 or 81 onwards, everybody in Europe started to talk ABV. So, and one of our owners was a gentleman by the name of John Murphy. Now, John Murphy is credited with creating the concept of branding in the 70s. He created a company called Interbrand, which is still around today. And if you know the UK a little bit, you'll know Homebase, which is a bit like IKEA, although not as good. And he named Homebase. He named a range of cars called the Mini, Maestro, Metro, and things like that. So he was quite a branding person. And we didn't know what to put in the top of this. And we were talking about being 57%, and we were looking at rum, and it was called Navy rum. So John just went, we'll put Navy strength in the top of the box. Yeah. Now, what we should have done is trademark the word Navy strength. Okay, because ever since then, since the sort of 2000 onwards, as people have started doing 57% plus or around about 57% gins, they put the term Navy strength onto them. But it comes from the same concept as rum, being that sort of higher strength that you take to sea. And the story really around the strength is it comes back to where the word proof comes from. So if I'm selling you a barrel of gin 250 years ago, I had no hydrometers. I had nothing else to explain by density what the alcohol strength of that liquid was. All I could do was set fire to it. And the simplest method was to pour some liquid onto gunpowder. Now, most people think about gunpowder going bang, but if you just tip it on the top of a barrel and set fire to it, it just creates a lot of smoke. So as long as you could set fire to that gunpowder, I was proving to you that my liquid had alcohol in it. So you knew it was 57% or above. Well, it's 57.14 technically, or above, basically. So I proved that my product had alcohol in it, and that's where the whole basic concept comes from.
Oh,
short answer for Peter.
Yeah,
but a good answer.
Very good answer. It's actually talking about the history. Lisa have a question here as well, and she had read that Plymouth can be seen as the mother of London dry style gin. Is that?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting question, that really, because of where gin was when Plymouth started. So if you go back to there's only really, I suppose, 2 gins that are still around today that are actually older than Plymouth gin, which is Gordon's and Greenall's. So so they started, get my dates right, I think 1760, 1761, something like that for Greenall's, and 1769-ish, something like that for Gordon's. And if you compare Plymouth and those 2 gins, they're very different. So Greenall's and Gordon's are quite juniper heavy, whereas Plymouth isn't. Oh. So what you do is Plymouth is starting to change the way that recipes are put together. So that by the time you then go through the 1800s, when you get the likes of sort of, I suppose, names that are still around today, like Tanqueray and Beefeater are still around, particularly with Beefeater, you're adding more depth to it. So, Plymouth was one of those gins that made people look at the way they put their recipes together. So, and even if you go into that sort of 1850 to 1900 period, there was lots of distilleries in London. So because there was more distilleries in London than anywhere else, that's where the term London gin came from. But it's the influences that Plymouth had on that history of those distilleries. And that you can trace it all the way back to how the recipe was very different to what was originally around.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting. Groundbreaking, but yeah.
Interesting. I'm actually, we have Piroshka Kalai. She actually wrote here. This one, this is a tough one for you to comment, actually, because her favorite drink is gin and Russian, Schweppes Russian. I know that in the UK, I don't think 5 years ago you didn't sell that that SKU, that type of software. So it's a very
never heard of it.
No, it's very Scandinavian. It's called Russian, but it's Scandinavian. And actually, bitter peach is a soft drink with bitter peach, and the bitterness works well with gin actually. But she also goes,
full Scandinavian
full
guys.
Scandinavian, full IKEA on this one, because she has lingonberry jam and garnish lingonberries.
Yeah, I'm a fan of lingonberries actually. I like it a lot actually. Yeah.
Well, we have to bring that next time we come.
With some pickled herring. I was introduced to pickled herring many years ago on a trip to Sweden, and big fan.
And you never came back, or?
No, for a few years, my boss was actually the production director for Absolut. So I used to travel quite often to Sweden. Yeah, so
it's
days gone past.
Yes, but we hope you come back soon so we can have a big gin tasting.
Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah, the world's a very strange place at the moment, so it would be nice to travel.
But when we, I don't know, I'm just a bit curious because I've only visited you guys pretty much for a short visit for a day. But is there, when people come to visit your distillery, I know that, not now, maybe during the corona and happy times with COVID, but usually you can actually visit this distillery. And what else can you do at the distillery? What kind of experience can people have?
Yeah, so like most distilleries, you can walk in and learn about how we make it and history. But we also have a bar, so a cocktail bar, so you can actually go up and try various cocktails that are mostly gin based, because obviously we're in the home of Plymouth Gin, and we have a restaurant, so which is run by a couple of brothers, and one of the brothers called James Tanner is a little bit of a celebrity chef. He does some of the TV work, so the food is excellent. So you can come to the distillery, you can have a tour, you can have an early evening drink, and then you can have a very nice dinner. So you can actually stay in the distillery from a tourism point of view for many hours. And then if you're finished with the distillery is in one of the oldest part of Plymouth, on an area called the Barbican. So you can walk around and take in more of the sights really, and walking around the Hoe. The Hoe is it's a peculiar English word, but not an American word. So but it's just a high point where you can look over the harbour, basically.
Yeah.
Nice.
For lighthouse and with
amazing, that's it.
I must say,
it's the most iconic picture that Plymouth, the city, uses, is the picture of the lighthouse. There you go. It's in the background of the picture there.
Yeah.
And actually, the lighthouse has got a little bit of a story behind it. There is a lighthouse about 14 miles straight south of the harbour called Eddystone Lighthouse, and the one that's there now, I think, is the fifth one. The one that's in the picture is the third one. So, and it was built in get the dates right, I think 1759. And it was the first lighthouse that actually worked. In other words, it stood up when the storm came through. And that's because the gentleman that designed it, a guy called Smeaton, worked out how to have all the stones that were built for the lighthouse to be shaped that when the sea hit it, it pushed them together. So it made the building stronger. And it's the very first lighthouse ever to do that. So all the other lighthouses you'll see anywhere in the world that are in areas that will get hit by the sea are based on that one. And the reason it's now on the Hoe in Plymouth is the rock that it was standing on broke, not the lighthouse. So towards the end of the 1800s, they decided to save it. So they took it down stone by stone and rebuilt it on the Hoe because it's a very significant lighthouse.
That's an amazing story. I mean, for the area and for
and I think it's like a lot of things. Plymouth the city is about 900 years old, and in fact, it as a port or as a little village, it goes back all the way to the Roman times. And the picture that's just been put up there is what we call the Royal William Yard. It's the old victualling yard for the Royal Navy, and again, it was built several hundred years ago. And today it's full of restaurants and bars, to bring it back to life. But it's another iconic building, and it's highly protected in the UK, so not too much can be done to it. But it was built, about 300-400 years ago.
So there's quite a lot of things to actually see if the viewers are planning a trip to this beautiful area. But of course, the distillery, if you can stay for a day in the distillery, and or maybe two, to be honest, it's quite brilliant place to stay. But there are plenty of things to see around there. We have a question here about it's Peter. What do you do with the herbs and spices after you use them in the process?
Yeah, we actually send them to an indigestion plant. So we effectively let them rot down and turn into methane gas, and then the methane gas runs the power plant.
Okay.
So it's just one of the things that we've been trying to do over the last 10 years is really embrace the concept of sustainability and responsibility. So for instance, every single glass bottle that comes through the building is recycled. We don't send anything to landfill. So all of the waste that goes through the distillery, make sure we find a different source for it. And we're steadily, as technology allows us, to work on different mechanisms to go further along that sustainability and responsible route. We recognise that that the ocean has been really important to Plymouth Gin over its 200 years. So we've recently started working with something called the Ocean Conservation Trust. So which is all about protecting the oceans and looking after the oceans. So that's the next step that we've taken as a brand to sort of help and look after the planet as best we can. I think we just take the view that if we do our little bit and everybody else does their little bit, suddenly it makes a lot, basically. So we're not going to save the world on our own, but we can definitely, without shadow of a doubt, play our part.
Oh, nice to hear. Nice to hear. I don't think we have a new question. Just some kind of statement there, Martin.
Yeah. I recognise the analogy. FOST is Flag Officer Sea Training. So obviously Martin looks like it was around in Plymouth in the year 2000.
I think he was, because I saw a picture somewhere that he put on Facebook or something that he has been there. So that's probably
you can once you sort of become it's like a lot of if you spend time in the military, you end up learning lots of anachronisms, basically. So you can have a whole separate language which nobody else will understand.
That's the thing, because I've spent some time with people that has been in the Navy and the military, and after a while you just feel a bit left outside because you don't really understand what they're talking about. But it must be an amazing thing to have done.
Next time we meet up over Zoom or Teams, we should go run all the difficult words from the Navy. I think
that's a whole different.
That's a whole book.
That's a different stream. Nothing about whiskey. Sorry about that.
I'm super happy that you have been with us, Sean. I mean, Sweden can celebrate a bit that Plymouth has come to the monopoly now, and I think that this will be a very good start for Plymouth, and hopefully we will see more different Plymouth gin here in Sweden very soon.
Thank you for your time. It's been fun.
I'm pretty sure that there will be more questions after this, and I will make sure to come back to you and see if our readers and followers can hear the answers afterwards.
Happy to. So ask anything you like, and I'm quite happy to answer.
Good.
I definitely will come back to you on that one.
I'm so happy that we got the answer why Plymouth is a smooth gin, why I can drink it just as it is. I drink it as we drink it now, just with a peel of orange, and now one of the 6 ingredients is actually orange peel. So that's maybe it works so well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
My summer cocktail, this is just ice, Plymouth, and orange peel. It's
well done.
I will definitely work on my dry martini because I'm always a bit afraid that I won't make it the right way at home. So I always try it when I'm in the bar. But it's super easy. I understand.
Yeah.
But I'm so scared that I will maybe the wrong.
Start with a French press. So,
that's what I'm going to do. That's
what you
brilliant.
do. And ice. You know, that's the key to a lot of cocktails is ice. So and then it's parts. How many? One part of this against half a part or something like that. Don't think measures. Think of it in parts. So if you start with an egg cup, then that's a part. So yeah.
Okay, so I will do that until next time, Sean. Dry martini, I will definitely be a bit more courageous there. Thank you very much, and thank you, all of the viewers, and hopefully we will see you all guys soon when things are lifted. And if you have any more questions, please come back to us, email us, or on Facebook, and we will come back to you with all of the details on Plymouth Gin after. And you can see this video afterwards, of course, if you have missed anything. Thank you, everyone, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.